Right, your Geordie Journos here at St James's Park, pitch side. The Champions League signs all getting taken down, and we just don't know when we'll next see that at St James's Park. Check out the live, which Jordan was obviously down speaking to Eddie Howe. Me and Dom jumped on, did a live, and that kind of, I feel like, almost analysed the game with a snap reaction. So what we're going to try and do with this video is maybe throw things forward a little bit and potentially analyse what has gone before in a microcosm, and what the experience of Champions League football has brought, was like, and what the future may hold in that regard. Right, Jordan, as you weren't on the live, we'll come to you first.
Pressure.
Nothing on the game really, because like I say, we've kind of gone over that. What do you think about the Champions League experience as a whole for Newcastle United? Can they take much from it, and how would you analyse it and assess it as a whole?
Yeah, it's the hope that kills you. It always has been with Newcastle United, but certainly in this instance, started in Milan, rabbit in the headlight. They were Newcastle in the San Siro, got through. Let's not remember that day. I think Newcastle in many ways, Nick Pope's goal was peppered that day, and yeah, I think we came away from the San Siro definitely happy with the point, but wondering what Newcastle would actually be able to do in this group. And then that Paris Saint-Germain game comes along, and it was everything this football club has longed for a very, very long time, 20 years to be precise, given the last time they played in this competition. And that ultimately proved to be the highlight of the group. It was Newcastle had historically have very good European nights against Barcelona, many years ago, Juventus as well. Paris Saint-Germain added that list, and it was the two Dortmund games I thought there was. I think this Paris Saint-Germain win inspired us and fans to believe that they can actually get out of this group, the group of death. But them two Dortmund games were a killer. The two back-to-back losses, we said at the time, it felt pivotal. And look, the Paris Saint-Germain game away again offered hope, because they went and got a point. Should have won. We've been over that. Should have won that. But they got a draw, and they came here tonight. Again, there probably was a little bit of, well, there definitely was hope that they would qualify for the last 16. But as I go back to the point I said at the start, it's a hope that kills you. And yeah, Newcastle have ended up almost qualifying for the last 16, to then being in the Europa League, to then being without no European football. So the group as it was, the group of death, is probably finished how you expected. Certainly in terms of the seeds, apart from Borussia Dortmund and Paris Saint-Germain have swapped places in the top two. But I think, putting things forward, I think Newcastle will be a lot better for this experience when they qualify for the Champions League again. They'll be a much more experienced side, because they've came up against, as I said, three European giants who have competed at this level for years, and that's probably showed in games. Probably more quality in parts as well. Newcastle have had their chances in games, don't get us wrong, they've had their chances, but have ultimately fell short. So yeah, the journey comes to an end, but I think it's a real learning curve, and I do think Newcastle will be stronger when they do eventually get back to this competition.
Three key elements for me when I assess the 6 games as a whole. I think, and all at certain points in the period, in the 6 games in Group F, they've all impacted in different ways. I think a lack of quality has shown at times, a lack of top elite level quality, a lack of options at certain times in the campaign has proven vital, and a lack of experience in key moments at times has probably cost them. And they're all things that I've absolutely no doubt will be massively improved upon, not only the next time Newcastle in the Champions League, but who knows that might not be next season. It may have to wait a while. What is certain is there is inevitability Newcastle will be back in this competition. Even if it isn't next season, it'll be the one after, or the one after, or whenever, because such is the direction of this football club. So for me, going into the quality moments, I believe Newcastle United with a little more quality. I agree. Sorry, go back to the first game. I agree with you. Rabbit in the headlights, very hot conditions, white hot atmosphere. I think Newcastle were a rabbit in the headlights that day, and got absolutely battered in the San Siro. And I think that's the difference for me looking at today and the start of the campaign, is that they have, I think they've learnt lessons and improved as a Champions League team throughout the campaign. They're a better Champions League team today, even though they lost to AC Milan, than they were against the team that drew on that first day. They're a better Champions League team now than they were then. They were better in an attacking sense and better in a defensive sense. But it's the quality that I would go back to for, obviously they showed it in the Paris game, but this group was won and lost in the middle too against Borussia Dortmund. And in key moments in those two games, it's quality that let them down, whether it be Joe Linton's miss in the Signal Iduna Park, or whether it be chances that just didn't go in the second half here in that game, where I think they hit the post twice, maybe Anthony Gordon, Callum Wilson hit the goalkeeper and it wouldn't go in the net. But key bits of quality in those games see the game out. It was probably a lack of options, in my opinion, not even going into the refereeing decision. It was a lack of options that probably made them fall short in Paris, which was a game there for the taking. If they'd had options in that game, I don't think we would have seen the siege that we saw at the end of it, and I think they probably get a 3 points out of that game. And then for me, this game against AC Milan, it was a lack of experience. I think a sense of naivety and game management that just slightly eluded them on the day. And again, a sprinkling of a lack of quality, because they created enough chances today to win the game and they limited the opposition to very few chances at the other end. It's probably a game they should have won, but I get why they rolled the dice in the end and it cost them. It was the ultimate cost really. They went from second to fourth in the space of 25 second half minutes, and it just is the way it is. Dom, your thoughts on the Champions League campaign as a whole?
Yeah, well, I asked Eddie Howe afterwards if he had any regrets, either him or his players, after the group stage campaign where they've ultimately came fourth, which is probably where a lot of people thought Newcastle would finish when the draw was made, and they gave it a right good go. They caused a real stir in the group, but ultimately have fallen at the final hurdle, if you like. And Eddie Howe said no regrets over the way the team played. They've always left everything out on the pitch, and I think they did that tonight. I think the frustration would be, as you hoped it wouldn't be though, that decision at Paris Saint-Germain has ultimately cost Newcastle a place in the Europa League and AC Milan a place in the last 16, you could say. So there's a sense of disappointment with that decision that has been proven to be incorrect, and you don't want to harp on or clutch at straws, but Newcastle have give it a right good go and can feel very unlucky, because it has been while it's been unspectacular in terms of the result, it has been a very eventful roller coaster group stage campaign full of great memories. And as we mentioned, that 4-1 win over PSG is probably one of the best nights I've experienced at St James's Park, and us three going away in Europe. I'm quite sad that's over for
it would have been nice to do it
the
again.
Season.
Sorry Dom, I just want to actually, that's a really interesting point you make on that penalty decision, and I kind of brushed past it, but that penalty decision would have meant PSG finished bottom of the group had that not been given.
They felt almost, we were talking about it just before, they almost felt embarrassed that they genuinely scraped through on head-to-head over AC Milan, and they needed a 98th minute penalty against Newcastle, which wasn't a penalty to go through. But look, Newcastle ultimately, we can point to that decision, ultimately over 6 games Newcastle weren't good enough.
Yeah, I agree. I think
the
that's
quality in key areas wasn't there. So yeah, we can hop on about this penalty decision, and it does sting. That's why I'm mentioning it. But yeah, Newcastle had 6 games, and basically they've only won 1 of them. So finishing bottom of the group is where they deserve to finish in a lot of ways. But I think we can be sad it's over, but there's been plenty of good moments to come from this, and hopefully I'm looking here, Champions League decor around St James's Park. Sad we won't see it for a while yet. Hopefully it's not 20 years until we see it next.
No, I don't think it'll be 20 years till this club's back in here. I think the club is only heading in one direction, and I think this is just the very first steps of a very long journey to eventual success. I think the biggest fear that I had about December was that things could easily unravel, and we've just had a week where things have unravelled. What's important to get is a sense of perspective that there are still 2 other cup competitions Newcastle United are in, and they are probably, you know, they're a little win streak away from being right in the mix in the Premier League again. Of course, it may go to 5 places this season, the Champions League. But look, I think we talked about in the live video, it isn't a silver lining. There is no silver lining to going out of a cup competition that Newcastle United really wanted to do well in, and was set to potentially make them a lot of money if they got through to the last 16. But the silver lining potentially in not going into Europa League, which albeit isn't again much of a silver lining, because you think they could potentially do really well in that competition and some more big European nights here, is that I do genuinely think taking the midweekers out of the equation into the second half of the season can only benefit them in the Premier League. It isn't a silver lining as such, but it is just a fact and a reality that reduced games is going to have less of an impact on the squad. It'll probably mean a lot of the injuries that have happened at the start of this season don't happen because players aren't overworked, their workload comes down, and you should hopefully see a stronger Newcastle United able to play at the levels that you would expect them to play to in the second half of the season. We know December is still going to be a bit of a slog because of the amount of games. What Newcastle United need to do for me is just hang on in there. They need to hang on in there in the Premier League. They need to break this little streak that they're on. It's been a chastening week of 3 defeats, all painful in their own different ways and manner. This one almost because of the circumstances and what was at stake. Sunday because it wasn't Newcastle United, and last Thursday at Everton again because it was just individual errors and probably mental fatigue that's kind of cost them. Fulham up at the weekend, and I think Newcastle United they've got to bounce back with a win. Carabao Cup, we're all going to be there in London next week. And I think the focus really does become heightened into that Carabao Cup game. Look, Chelsea aren't, they're no great shakes. You know, they're not the best of teams. They're better, you know, it's a hard place to go, Stamford Bridge, but I wouldn't rule this Newcastle United team, even though they've got terrible away day record this season. I wouldn't rule them out going and getting something, especially after the experience of this. I don't think this experience will dent their season. I think they'll grow from it and get better as the season goes on. So is that a nice positive note to end on?
Yeah, I think they've just got to get through December, and what I would say to that in terms of the games that they've got 2 big games coming up. Fulham here on Saturday is massive because, you know, if you lose 4 games off the bounce, fans will be concerned. And then that Chelsea game as well, it's an opportunity to get in the semi-final of a Carabao Cup again, which would be massive. So that game does become a big focus now, having previously been probably played second fiddle at the Champions League. But I say the December schedule should hopefully be eased by a couple of players coming back. We've seen Sean Longstaff and Dan Burn come off the bench today. Obviously Callum Wilson started the game. It's understood that like Sven Botmans, Harvey Barnes aren't too far away either, so they've got players to come back in to get through December. And then, as you mentioned there, Liam, when Newcastle start to get 3 weeks, they'll have a fully fit squad and they'll be able to show their identity under Eddie Howe, which is high intensity, outrunning and out battling, out strengthening teams. They haven't been able to do that as such in the last few weeks because of the injuries, and they've suffered because of that. But Newcastle United are at their best when they want to outstrength teams and be better and outrun them, and they can only do that with a fully fit squad. And yeah, I think that's a real positive to not a positive to come from tonight, but if you want to try and find a positive, it's the fact that Newcastle should be stronger in the second half of the season, and hopefully they can push towards them top 4 places. It's going to be tough. You look at the top 4 now, like see Aston Villa's running away with it in many ways, but Newcastle's still only 7 points off the top 4. There's a long way to go in this season. So if they continue to, you know, if they go on little runs where they win so many off the bounce, they could get closer to that top 4. I think it's really important that they do go and get European football of some kind. I wouldn't rule out Champions League football yet, but it's going to be difficult. But to say, they'll have room now to show what they're really made of, and hopefully go on a run of games that gets them closer to them European places.
Yeah. It's going to be that little bit harder potentially to get Champions League football as well, not to end on a downer, but Newcastle Man U finishing bottom of the group affects the coefficient. They could get that 5th place, which is probably a video for another time, potentially later in the season. But yeah, no coincidence last season that without the midweekers every week in playing in Europe, Newcastle didn't have anywhere near the injury crisis they currently have. And I think what probably has hurt them slightly, as Liam's touched on in a previous video a couple of months ago, being drawn in the group of death, there wasn't really a chance for Eddie Howe to rotate his players. He had to go full strength in every single game. There wasn't a Braga, as Liam put it, or someone like that.
Feels like a long time ago.
There wasn't
That
any
was Wolves, wasn't it?
Yeah, there's been no chance of respite. And when you add Manchester United away, Manchester City in the Carabao Cup, Chelsea in the Carabao Cup, Sunderland in the FA Cup coming up, you can't afford to play a B team, if you like.
I don't know, if you get a championship club in the FA Cup, you can play B team, can't you?
people are going to clip that, Liam, watch out. But yeah,
it's a joke.
But yeah, moving forward, hopefully Newcastle can avoid a 4th straight defeat and can bounce back in the Premier League against Fulham this Saturday, back here at St James's Park, where they've so often been so good, but now back-to-back defeats for the first time ever in Europe at St James's Park. And yeah,
No, that's about it, really. I think the only point I'm going to make on that coefficient thing, that it doesn't look great at the moment for English football, but the argument against Italy, for example, would be that teams such as Aston Villa are probably one of the favourites to win the Conference League. If they do that, as West Ham did last season, then England will probably be up there. And I would argue that Inter and AC Milan in the Champions League have probably got much less of a chance. Probably Lazio as well. I can't remember the 4th one is, if there is even a 4th one. But they've definitely got a lot less chance of Napoli of going deep into the competition as compared to the 2 English teams who remain in the competition. Arsenal look every bit at home in the Champions League, and Man City of course won it last year, and even though they're having struggles in the Premier League, are going through the Champions League in a canter at the moment, and you'd imagine semi-final-ish places look on for those type of teams. And that's without even getting on to Liverpool. Yeah, Liverpool and Brighton potentially, who are doing amazingly well in the Europa League. West Ham, can't even rule West Ham out. The run they've had for the last couple of years in Europe. So, right, I think that's it. T's and C's time, do you think, lads? Because I think we've got to get home, haven't we?
Yeah, all sad. Newcastle out of Europe.
Half 12 at St James's Park. I think anybody else is left.
We're always the last people here, by the way.
Yeah.
We're always working hard for the Geordie Journals and our various
not just the Geordie
titles.
Journals.
Go on, Don, run through what we're working for.
I work for Shields Gazette, covering Newcastle United, and Jordan Cronin,
Newcastle
World.
Tell the guys out there what kind of content you can find on the Shields Gazette from you from tonight's game and moving forward, Don.
Well, you'll have my player ratings, which I'm sure many people will disagree with. Joe Linton, man of the match, though. You can't argue with that. Eddie Howe reaction, like I said, the question asked about whether he has any regrets, and then in the morning we'll have some injury news to come, and of course some more in-depth analysis to come looking ahead, and then me and Jordan will be at Eddie Howe's press conference on Friday morning.
I'm too big time for the press conference.
As I always
according
say,
to you,
yeah.
According to you, Dom.
Yeah.
Jordan, while we're finding your stuff and what we're looking for.
Yeah, what Dom said, but on Newcastle World. Check out my player ratings as well. I think mine and Dom's player ratings usually differ, to be honest, so why not compare the two and then let me know what you think. But yeah, lots of reaction to come from tonight's defeat, a bit of analysis as well, and then look ahead to Fulham. So yeah, the next time you catch me and Dom together will be for Eddie Howe's pre-match press comments ahead of that Fulham game on Saturday. And yeah, hopefully Newcastle can bounce back and we can finally report on a win, because the last 10 days been the last 7 days have been a long time in football, and it feels like Newcastle haven't won for eternity, but realistically it's actually only a week, so hopefully they can get back to winning ways on Saturday.
Right, like, comment, share, subscribe, click the bell for all your Geordie Journals content straight to your devices. Thanks for watching, guys. Jump in the comments, let me know what you think of this video, and let me know if you want to do any other kind of videos, because we're more than open to suggestions. Right, cheers, like, comment, share, subscribe for all your Geordie Journals content.